Alright, so the next blocks we're going to be making are these. We've got a 9-patch, a QST, a fancy QST, a fancy pinwheel, and a rail fence. I'm going to go ahead and start on these two. These are going to be the neutral blocks. So I'm going to pick my fabrics now. Alright, I have my stuff cut. So if you are going to be drawing a line method, and we're going to call that method 1, you're going to draw a line from corner to corner on the wrong side of your fabric. And you will sew a scant quarter of an inch on each side of your line, trim it up the middle, press to the darker side. So alright, just like that. I'm going to go ahead and cut on my line with my scissors. You can do a rotary cutter, it doesn't matter. And I will press to the darker side. You will proceed to square these blocks up to 2.5 inches. And when you're doing half square triangles, it's best to line this line up with the 45 on your ruler. All right. For method 2, you will place right sides together, and using your easy angle ruler, you will trim, setting your tip off the fabric. Your black tip should be hanging off the fabric, and this edge of the fabric should line up with the 2.5 inch line. And you will cut 4 pairs. Alright, after you have your half square triangles sewn, you will lay them out in a 9-patch. Ideally, the lighter fabric or the less busy fabric you want to go in these 4 spots. Because I'm using scraps, I ran out of that fabric, so I chose a lighter fabric to go here. Do whatever works for you. And you're going to sew this like a 9-patch. On this particular block, because I have half square triangles in the corners, I'm opting to press towards the blank square in the middle. And then here I'm pressing out. And then on this row I would press in. But again, the pressing's up to you. I'm doing that so that my seams lay flatter. Alright, this is hot off the sewing machine. I'm finger pressing, spinning my seams. And 6.5 inches is what it should measure. If it does not, you're going to go ahead and trim to size. Okay, the next block we're going to be making is going to be this pinwheel right here. So I'm going to pick out some fabrics that I think are going to work. Okay, so I have selected my fabrics. I've selected a gray print, neutral, and then just an unbleached muslin. It has nice contrast, and as I step away, the gray might be a little bit dark, but I'm using what I have. Okay, for making the pinwheel, we are going to start with on method 1, which is going to be drawing a line. We're going to start with 2 of one neutral print, and those squares are going to measure 4, and then 2 of another neutral print that are going to measure 4 inches square, and we're going to draw a line on the back of the lighter print from corner to corner. And we're going to place right sides together. And we are going to sew a scant 1/4 of an inch on each side of this line. After you sew on each side of that line, you're going to cut on the line. And then you're going to press to the dark side. Okay, I have pressed to the dark side, and now I'm going to trim my squares down to 3.5 inches. And you will do this 4 times. I'm not going to show method 2 because my fabric was already cut, but if you choose to do method 2, you will cut 2 strips of your opposite fabrics, your neutral fabrics. You'll lay your ruler on the strip of fabric, and your strips will be 3.5 inches. Your black corner will overhang on one side, and your 3.5 line will line up on the straight edge, and you'll make your cuts, and you'll sew, and you'll trim down to 3.5 if necessary. All right, I'm trimming up these blocks. Three and a half. Okay, so now the next decision is going to be on you. How do you want, which blocks do you want in the corners? I guess they'll both be in the corners. So according to this, we still have another fabric to select for the very tips. So I'm just gonna spin my pinwheel how I want it. Let's see. I think I'm gonna spin it like that. Oops. And I'm gonna make my 4 patch. Okay, we're using piece B on our template sheet. And according to this, it's an inch. I'm gonna go ahead, you can make your squares any size. I would not make them bigger than 2 inches. And I guess it would depend on your fabric. The busier, darker the print, the smaller you want your square. I'm gonna make my squares 1.5 inches. You will need 4 to cut 4 1.5 inches for the covered corners. All right, I have my inch and a half inch squares, and there's gonna be 2 methods to do this. You're gonna draw a line from corner to corner on all 4 of these squares. This will be method 1. You will do this on the wrong side of the fabric. You will place it on the corner and you will sew just on this side of the line, not on the line, but just on this side of the line. And you'll repeat that 4 times. For time's sake, I'm just going to use my covered corners ruler. Place that on my square, on the corner of my square, and I'm gonna line up my grid lines here and here, and again here and here, and all of them need to match. If they don't, you need to scoot the fabric. All right, make my cut. And if you notice, the line I drew is exactly right there. So if you sew this on a scant 1/4 inch, it'll be perfect covered corner. And if you look, I don't know if you can tell this, it's just on the other side of the line. And we've got 6.5 inch square, and I'm going to repeat that for all 4 corners. And there we have it, a pinwheel with folded corners. Nice little easy block. So the next block we're going to be making is this rail fence. It has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 rails. So each one of these strips is going to be cut 6.5 by 1.5. Picking your blue fabrics for this is going to be hard. You want them to slowly graduate to a dark color. Do the best you can. If you can't make it, make them random blues. That's fine. I'm going to attempt to do this in the graduated thing. I have problems doing this, so we'll see how this turns out. gosh, this part is so hard for me. So I now have all 4 prints that are kind of a purpley blue, and they look pretty good on the camera. Yeah, and then the dark will go in the center. This is going to consume a bunch of fabric, so try to use your smallest scrap possible, because basically we're going to be cutting a square and then cutting it in half, and the other half of the square is not going to be used. Okay, so I have my 4 purplish blue strips cut, and basically they will need to be 2.5 by 6.5. And to get this angle, I'm going to lay my paper template, which is piece G, on my fabric, and I'm going to cut that angle. It should be a 45-degree angle. You should be able to use the line on your ruler. So I'm going to make the cut, and then I'm going to come back and make the fancy cuts around that piece. Yeah, so these cuts are 45, but to get the right size cut, this second cut, I'm going to leave on my strip and place my ruler over it. And I'm going to repeat this process 4 times for each piece. Alright, I have all of my template G pieces cut, and now I need to make the decision of how big to cut my square. I've looked at the dimensions on this. I think I'm going to cut my square 2.5 inches and cut it in half. So we'll see if this works. So you're going to need 2 squares cut with your darkest fabric, 2.5 inches. And then we're going to cut this on the diagonal from corner to corner. And then on the peaks of each one of these, is that a trapezoid? Anyway, we're going to sew this on there. You will have overhang. I recommend folding your fabric to get the true center. And stitch. Alright, let's see how I did. I know I'm going to at least have to trim the dog ears. It looks like I'm going to have a little bit of trimming on this, so it's possible that the square that, or the HST that they provided in the directions would work, but I'm going to go ahead and line up my raw edge on my larger piece. And trim. And I guess this also gives you a fudge factor for them not having to be perfectly in alignment. I guess it'd probably be beneficial to press every other piece the opposite way. So this one, I'm gonna go ahead and press that one down. And I can press up. one I'll press down. I guess pressing doesn't really matter on this one either. But I'm doing this to stagger my seams on that on that center square. It's just a recommendation. All right. And hopefully, if I've done this right, it will end up being a 6.5 inch square. Okay, I have sewn 2 of my halves together for my QST, and yes, pressing this way on one and the opposite way on the other really helped that line up. Yeah. And so I press this way on that one. I'm going to press this way on that one. I'm going to go ahead and spin my seam on this. And then sew that together. Pin. Gonna have to pin. We are on the bias. And my daggum seam flipped, so I won't be able to spin my seam. I'll try. Okay, it's still spun. Again, this is your biased edge, so don't stretch it. Finger press. And it measures 6.5 inches square. No trimming. I'm liking some of these templates. What do you think? Don't forget to share on social media your progress on this quilt along. And remember, it's hashtag scrappy_QAL, all one word. I'd love to see your progress. Thanks for watching.